Today I learned the reason why we view Neanderthals as hunched over and degenerate is that the first skeleton to be found was arthritic.
Also over 80. First impressions are a powerful thing. Modern humans migrating out of Africa also encountered the Denisovans, another descendant of Homo erectus living in Europe and Asia, and got busy with them as well. In fact, human, Neanderthal and Denisovan genomes all have traces of each other, and there are shadows in our genome that might be best explained by us interbreeding with yet a third, but still unknown, species, Homo neanderthalensis, Homo erectus, and Homo sapiens all shared the Earth at one time. If we all survived, we would be living in some Lord of the Ring world, with giants, dwarfs and human.
Today I learned after Columbine, Marilyn Manson wrote an article condemning the media's coverage of the event. In it he writes, "The media, since their inception, have turned criminals into folk heroes. They just created two new ones. Don't be surprised if every kid who gets pushed around has two new idols."
And they blame it on Marilyn, or the heroine. Well, where were the parents at? Eminem, who has faced similar criticism. Reminder that Manson's music was blamed for the shootings. Despite Harris and Klebold being House fans, he wasn't wrong. The film Natural Born Killers by filmmaker Oliver Stone, co-written by Quentin Tarantino, encapsulates the media's obsession with criminals fairly well, and in a very graphic way. After he was banned from several venues because the Columbine kids' parents said they worshipped his music, you can bet your ass he had some colorful things to say about the media.
Today I learned Grand Theft Auto 5 cost $265 million to make, the largest budget of any video game at that time, but turned around and made $1 billion in its first 72 hours.
And the game is still printing money for them. Couldn't fit this in the title, but they also made back the entire $265 million in pre-sales alone. Turns out people love causing mayhem with no repercussions. Greater than media analyst Arvind Bhatia estimated the game's development budget exceeded $137 million, and the Scotsman reporter Marty McLaughlin estimated that the combined development and marketing efforts exceeded £170 million, $265 million, making it the most expensive video game ever made at its time. Almost half of the $265 million budget went to marketing alone.
Today I learned that in Germany, it is illegal to kill any animal that is a vertebrate without proper reason, like the animal being ill or a danger to humans. Because of this, all German animal shelters are no-kill.
This actually means that fishing with catch and release is illegal in Germany. You can throw a fish back in if it turns out you shouldn't have caught it. But you can't set out to catch fish for the sole purpose of throwing them back in. Fishing to eat fish is one thing with proper permit, but fishing for the sake of fishing isn't. On the other hand, hunting is big in Germany. The proper reason is that there are hardly any natural predators for animals like deer, unless you count automobiles, and thus there needs to be some hunting to keep the unnatural balance. Does this include rodents? Like I can only use humane traps and no poison if I have a mice infestation? It was coming right at me. Or for food, presumably.
Today I learned after the world's largest beach cleanup at Mumbai's Versova Beach, Olive Ridley Toodles returned to lay eggs for the first time in 20 years.
Till there's a Champion of Earth award that doesn't involve mortal combat of some kind. How do they know to come back after so many years? I know some turtles prefer to nest in the same beaches from which they were born. Are these turtles who have been trying and failing to return to their home beach for decades, only to show up again 1 year and finally find their passage free? Can you imagine the drama of coming home every year for 20 years and finding it a ruin, but never giving up regardless? only to one day have your deepest instinct come to fruition? I am very proud to say that I was a part of the volunteer team which did this. Our leader Afroz Shah got the United Nations Champion of the Earth Award. Perhaps the turtles were there all along. You just couldn't see them in those piles of trash.
Today I learned that during the filming of The Sound of Music, the city of Salzburg refused to allow Nazi flags to be hung off buildings for filming. The director threatened to instead use real newsreel footage of the city enthusiastically greeting Hitler. The city quickly backpedaled and allowed the shot.
I was surprised to learn that the Von Trapp family did not actually flee over the mountains to escape Austria. They took a train to Italy. I'm curious to know if there were people in the city that had no idea what was going on. They just saw the flags one day and thought, not this shit again. I first saw The Sound of Music at 3 in the morning, in the waiting room of jail. Magical. Keep in mind World War II was to Sound of Music's team what the 90s are for us.
Today I learned in 2012, a Burger King employee anonymously posted an image on 4chan of him putting his feet in lettuce, with the caption, "This is the lettuce you eat at Burger King." It took 20 minutes for people to track down the branch the employee worked at and contact the news. He was promptly fired.
And it sprouted the number 15 meme. Number 15. Nowadays things happen super fast on the internet. How to be super paranoid that your geodata will somehow show up even if you have it turned off. 1. Take photo. 2. Print photo. 3. Scan print back to digital form at a public library or photo place that doesn't have any CCTV near or in it. 4. Create a trash account and upload using a burner device from a public Wi-Fi hotspot that doesn't have any CCTV near or in it.
Today I learned George Washington allegedly said before his death that he would never set foot on English soil again, so when they erected a statue of him in London, they put US soil under the statue to honor that claim.
Asterisk, I have some soil for you, Georgie. Here, take it. Asterisk. Greater than I was the last to consent to the separation. But the separation having been made and having become inevitable, I have always said, as I say now, that I would be the first to meet the friendship of the United States as an independent power. George III. Just like how Neil Armstrong said he would never leave the moon under any circumstances, so they left him on the moon and hired a man who looks just like him to serve as his body double. Why didn't they just make a statue with no feet instead? Honestly, some people just don't think things through.
Today I learned that after studios refused, Monty Python and the Holy Grail was instead financed by the rock stars Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Genesis, Jethro Tull and Elton John, who also it as simply a good tax write-off.
When the Pythons invited the investors to a private screening of the first rough cut, the evening started extremely well, with lots of happy talk and copious drinking and so on. But the first cut was so awful, and few if any of them understood how rough a rough cut could be, with little to no music or sound effects and so on, that afterwards it was incredibly awkward and embarrassing, as the rock gods just sorta quietly slipped away. And Life of Brian was funded by George Harrison because he wanted to see it. Didn't the story end prematurely because they ran out of funding? How is funding a film a tax write-off?
Today I learned that farmers in USA are hacking their John Deere tractors with Ukrainian firmware, which seems to be the only way to actually own the machines and their software, rather than rent them for lifetime from John Deere.
I've heard of rent to own, but never hack to own. I actually helped a college friend's family do this. Even if you fix the damn things yourself with OEM parts, you still need to either take it to a dealership or have a certified tech come out and plug his machine in. Absolute BS. You haven't really lived until you jailbroke a tractor. John Deere sold farmers their tractors, but has used software to maintain control of every aspect of its use after the sale. Quote, talk about alienating your customer. They are not farm-friendly. Just another money-grubbing corporation.
Today I learned Quebec banned ads for toys and fast food aimed at children under 13, resulting in lower childhood obesity rates.
But the toys are low-calorie and very filling. I would think they'd counteract obesity. You know, now that I think about it, I can't remember the last time I saw McDonald's or any fast food restaurant really advertising their toys on television. Thinking about it more, I also haven't watched anything besides streaming services in the last few years. Besides sports and stuff like that. Asterisk in Sweden, all advertising aimed at kids 12 and under is banned. Asterisk. This must make Swedish parents very happy. I live in Quebec, watching Canadian, local TV stations versus American ones are so different it's hilarious. The US ones have ads for food and prescription drugs as a majority.